What's going on, everybody? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, host of the State of the Saints podcast. And what you just saw was me editing some things before we get started. But we got a good show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the very first day of the New Orleans Saints training camp. And we're going to be giving you some of the news coming out of the very first day. And also, if you remember this place behind me, going into it, getting yourself a buttermilk drop and 20 pieces of chicken that was so greasy that it will fall through the box, then you know where I'm at.
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who that?
What's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate your time, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. On this edition, we're going to be talking about Saints training camp day one. Yes, Who That Nation, football is indeed back. And the New Orleans Saints took the field for the very first time for training camp of the 2025 season. And I know so many Saints fans were excited about that. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already seen some of the pictures of fans lining up with anticipation to be out there and just the excitement of actually seeing your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, take the field. There were a lot of storylines that we're going to tackle on this episode. About the quarterback situation, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Mario Davis. Some seasoned veterans spoke to the media today about their aspirations and what they want for themselves, as well as the team in 2025. But of course, I have to acknowledge those that are in the chat right now. Thank you so much. If you want to interact with us here on the State of the Saints podcast in real time, you can put your comments into the chat. Also want to mention that immediately following this episode, as a matter of fact, is actually going on right now. The State of the NFL podcast just put out a new episode. Those episodes are most likely going to come out, at 10:30 Eastern time every single, I would say every single day. I'm going to have something to talk about. So just want to let you all know that. But we're talking about Terry McLaurin holding out a Washington Commanders camp and how should they approach it. I'm talking to Commanders, and will they pay Terry McLaurin? So that episode is available right now, and you can check it out immediately following this episode. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and put that link inside of the comments. So if you want to go and check it out, make sure that you do, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as we continue to try to grow the state of the NFL. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk a little bit about Saints training camp. The first day of Saints training camp was the Spencer Rattler show. And what I mean by that is Spencer Rattler got the opportunity to run with the ones on day one, which to me isn't a surprise to anybody. I think that maybe some people may have thought, I'm talking very few, may have thought that maybe they would have rotated, but everybody's going to get an opportunity. Spencer Rattler went first on Thursday. We'll see Tyler Shough run with the ones, Spencer Rattler with the twos, and Jake Haener rolling with the threes. And then I'm pretty sure you'll probably see Jake Haener rolling with the ones as well on the final day or Friday. But I just think that this is a good rotation. It's a good thing, to get those guys in and out of the lineup, get them in and out of the huddle, having them have some level of a rapport with the ones, because this is a true competition. I've heard a lot of positive things about Spencer Rattler's day. They say that he was very, very crisp on today. He made a lot of really good throws, and a lot of reporters and onlookers said that Spencer Rattler looked pretty doggone good out there. Tyler Shough made some throws as well. There was a video of Tyler Shough throwing a wheel route. The running back Yarns, he didn't catch it, but all in all, it still was a good throw by Tyler Shough. So it just shows that he has really good touch. And tomorrow, I'm pretty sure he's looking forward to running with those number ones. Also, Alvin Kamara was out at training camp looking as crisp as we often see Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara going into his 9th season. He's 30 years old, but he doesn't look like it. I mean, we can always count on Alvin Kamara to be available. And speaking of available, he was available after practice, speaking to the media. I don't have that video footage. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already have seen what Alvin Kamara said, but it's just a lot of things, just him trying to approach this new season, and also just being a leader. He says that he allows guys to kind of be themselves, and he's always available to some of the young running backs. He looks at himself as a leader. He's not the boisterous guy. He'll give his opinion when necessary, but he feels like guys will hold themselves accountable. And if not, he will say something then. I like that Alvin Kamara is taking on that leadership role. The Saints need him to take on that leadership role. And, I think the best way that you can lead is just to be out there. I also found it very intriguing that Alvin talked about, splitting some of the reps, trying to make sure that he is available. It was, a little bit of a shock to me, because when you think about the running back position and you have a running back that gets the majority of the carries, he'll probably say, he doesn't have an issue with it. But it seems to me that Alvin is okay with a running back by committee. And hopefully the New Orleans Saints could, have a really good rotation of running backs. Lord knows they have plenty of guys that can get the job done. And that's good, right? Because, even though Alvin has been a consistent force in the offense since he came into the league in 2017, Alvin has been nicked up and he's had injuries that has cost him games. And you want to make sure that you have some reliable running backs that are available just in case Alvin goes down. And also, you don't want to run Alvin into the ground. So they have a really good stable of running backs. You got Cam Akers, you got Devin Neal, you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you got Kendre Miller, you got some guys that can get it done. And this is a great opportunity for a lot of these guys, because even though everybody knows that Alvin Kamara is the number one guy, I think that the number 2 running back position is up for grabs as well. We'll get into the wide receivers and the defense in just a few minutes, but just want to read some of the chat here, see what you all have to say. What do you all think about the first day of Saints training camp? Keenard says, TJ, I love Olave's answer regarding his extension. Kid really knows how this works and has done some introspection. Yeah. When I think about Chris Olave, well, I'll get into that in a second when we talk about wide receivers, because I want to kind of talk a little bit about some of his talking points that he made. Jake needs to just work with the threes and that's it. Well, as long as they feel it's a competition, you have to treat it as such. We can't just downgrade the guy. He has something to offer, and I think the New Orleans Saints feel that he has something to offer. I already told you I like Jake Haener a lot. I think that he is probably the smartest smartest quarterback that they have inside of the room. Like, he's a very smart guy. My biggest issue with Jake Haener is when it's time to go out there and to apply what you learn. Yeah, I say that Jake Haener is the guy that know all the answers to the test, but starts to freeze up a little bit because he thinks about the magnitude of the test. That's Jake Haener. Like it would not surprise me. I'm going to continue to say it. It would not surprise me if Jake Haener is a head coach in the distant future, a coordinator, in the future, because he is that smart of a football player. I think very highly of Jake Haener. So I'm not just going to, dismiss him, but I do feel like it's going to be an uphill battle for him. And, I'm not just going to say that the guy just needs to give up. I think that, he feels like it's a competition. He's going out there and compete. And that's the best thing that you can ask of him. Yeah, he goes out there and compete. So there's nothing wrong with that. Jake is the smallest quarterback we have. Yeah, he is the smallest quarterback. Spencer Rattler isn't the tallest guy in the world either. He's maybe like 6 feet or 6'1", but he has like, a little stocky build on him. You got Hunter Deckers, he's about 6'2" or 6'3", and then of course, you got Tyler Shough about 6'5". So, the Saints, they got quarterbacks of all different shapes and sizes. So, but all the guys are very, very smart and in their own way, very talented. I don't understand why so many fans wish for Spencer's downfall. Well, I just think that people feel like, oh, well, Spencer Rattler has already gotten his opportunity. He's gotten his chance to show what he has. But I just think those are people that will take it for what it is, right? They don't look at the circumstances or the opportunities or lack thereof of success for Spencer Rattler. They don't look at it that way, right? If you look at a guy and you don't really care that much for him, you're going to kind of lean into his negative tendencies. And yes, Spencer Rattler did make mistakes. He did turn the ball over, but, that's what you expect from a young guy, especially when you don't have anybody truly to lean on. But I don't get people wanting to see a Saints quarterback fail. I'm talking any one of them, because you want all of these guys to look the part. Like, you don't want one guy just to look like absolute slow, and then the one guy just looks like he just all world. Because like I've been telling you, like since 2019, the New Orleans Saints have had to go with a backup quarterback. To have 2 quarterbacks or even 3 quarterbacks that are capable of going and running the offense in a real game situation is a plus, because if history has shown us over the last couple of years, you might need one of those guys. So that's the reason why you have to depend and lean on a lot of these guys and hope that they work out, because there's a chance that they may end up playing anyway. And then, I don't want any of these guys to look bad because they play for your favorite team. So that's how I'm looking at it. Competition it's going to work itself out, right? You trying to, pound the drum for one particular person is not going to make or break the competition. Like, it's not like they're going to be like, well, TJ thinks that Spencer Rattler needs to start, so let's go ahead and let him start. It doesn't work like that. Whoever goes out there and they play well, they do the little things behind the scenes that we're not privy to, then that is who the New Orleans Saints are going to select. And as fans of the team, if you support the team, you should roll with the player and hope that they do well, even if it's not the guy that you felt in the first place should be the starter. Because if you love the Saints, you want them to win. And it doesn't matter who's the signal caller. You should put your pride to the side and look at, what's best for the team. And if they feel like whatever quarterback they select is best for the team, that should be the guy that you should support. But let's stop right there. We'll get back into the comments in just a second. Let's talk a little bit about the wide receiver position. This has been a hot topic among the Hudak Nation over the last few months about what the New Orleans Saints are going to do at the wide receiver position. Some thought that they were going to address that position in the draft. As a matter of fact, it felt like it was the only position the New Orleans Saints did not address at all. You got guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones who come in, made some plays, especially during his time with the Cleveland Browns. You got Bub Memes, who's going into his second season, needs to stay healthy, but there's some bright spots there. You got a couple more talented guys on the football team that are going to try to make this team and take advantage of their opportunities. Also, you have your usual suspects, the guys that we feel are the top wide receivers on the team. That's Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks. The talk has been all of these guys pretty much are the same build, same route tree, same type of skill set. But I look at this team and I look at the way that Kellen Moore schemes. You're going to have a lot of opportunities for these guys to try to get yards after the catch. Especially at the tight end position, you're going to get that. So I'm thinking that maybe the Saints are looking at Juwan Johnson to possibly have a breakout year. The way that Kellen Moore utilizes the tight ends, you look at his track record from guys like Dalton Schultz, guys like Gerald Everett, Perham, the big, tall, 6'7" tight end that played with the Chargers. I think now he's with the Commanders. He's had, so many different tight ends that have had like monster years because the way that he utilized them. Even Dallas Goedert with the Philadelphia Eagles had a really good season last year. So I'm thinking maybe they're looking at maybe utilizing a tight end more, which is why they aren't really that concerned about having these wide receivers with the same similar build. But Chris Olave spoke to the media too. And, I was very, very interested in hearing what Chris Olave had to say in regards to, everything, because we know that Chris Olave pretty much, had a very, very disappointing year. And it's not because he's not talented. It's just because of the concussion issues. Only had 400 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. And, he's a guy that has a lot that he has to prove, not just, from a statistical standpoint, but also a mental standpoint. Like being knocked out of a game, being knocked out cold, and having several, situations that happen to you that involve concussions is a very, very scary thing. And, it's not like this guy has, had anyone hit him or absorbed any level of contact. You got to be able to put that, stuff to the back of your mind the best way that you can in order for you to perform the job. And then I also have seen some footage of, Spencer Rattler throwing Chris Olave the ball, and people are concerned about talking about hospital balls and this, that, and the third. Look, the wide receiver position, guys are going to have to leave their feet from time to time. Like you're not going to always be able to throw the ball to a guy like when he's a stationary target. It's just not. It's not like how you're throwing a football to your son or your daughter in the backyard, right? Like guys are going to have to be on the move. He is going to have to absorb a big hit, and you just have to hope that, everything pans out. He also talked about maybe, trying to get down on time, like getting the ball and, making sure that you get down before somebody takes your head off. Now, you have to, kind of, depict when that situation, you want to take advantage of that situation. Like, I think one wide receiver that I used to enjoy watching, he's actually one of my favorite wide receivers of all time, is Marvin Harrison. Like, Marvin Harrison did a really, really good job at knowing when to get the yards after the catch and when to just get down and live to fight another day. And Chris Olave is going to have to figure that out. You don't want to just fall down every single time, because if you do that, then to me, it's like those concussions are now playing a role in how you approach the game. I also heard him talk about him wanting to be used more of a down the field threat. And I thought that was a good thing as well. The fact that when we looked at Chris Olave, especially during his time when he was at Ohio State, he was the down the field threat for the Buckeyes. That was the thing that really made him stand out. I mean, you were there with Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams was there for a little while. You also, has Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Chris Olave was the wide receiver that stretched the field. And I do feel like the New Orleans Saints need to get back to that. This is a guy in Chris Olave who ran a 4.26 at the combine. He can fly. maybe the Saints kind of fell in love a little bit too much with the Rashid Shaheed dynamic of throwing the ball down the field. But, I think that you can utilize Rashid Shaheed the way that you tried to utilize Chris Olave. And I feel like you would find more success with Shaheed, maybe in the flat, making somebody miss getting yards after the catch than Chris Olave, because Rashid Shaheed, where his bread was buttered, was special teams. You are eluding, guys that are trying to run down the field, trying to tackle you. He has a way of making guys miss. So maybe the New Orleans Saints can kind of utilize Rashid Shaheed more in that capacity. And you can also have, Brandon Cooks running a route tree because he's a very polished wide receiver as well. But I'm not so too concerned about Chris Olave. Like King Arthur alluded to about his contract, he understands that this is a production-based business, right? It's what have you done for me lately, fair or unfair? He knows that it was a down year, and he knows that, the concussions are going to be a concern. He has to show the Saints organization that they don't have anything to worry about. This could be a big year for Chris Olave if the Saints utilize his skill set of being that down the field threat, as well as having him, work their route tree, because he's a very good route runner at the wide receiver position. Also, we've seen that the wide receivers were taken apart in some of these tackling drills. Kellen Moore felt that, they needed to be a part of some of these defensive drills, because we know that, guys are going to, throw interceptions, and you're going to have to make a tackle, right? And that is something that I feel like a lot of people don't really pay that much attention to. One player, you may not like the team, but there was one player, for the Falcons, and Julio Jones. This guy knew how to make a tackle, right? I mean, sometimes you would think that Julio Jones was a safety, but you got to be able to get the guys on the ground sometimes, especially having young quarterbacks. That those interceptions may occur because these guys are trying to make plays, or maybe something can happen. They're going to make those mistakes, and Kellen Moore understands that. But I really enjoy Chris Olave speaking to the media. He seems like a guy that is coming into his own. This is his fourth season. He's been in the league. He's been there. He's done that, and he's starting to emerge as that leader and being that vocal guy. So will this translate to a historical season for Chris Olave? Only time will tell, but it seems like he's in a good spot. And, the Saints have been dismissing the concerns about concussions. I just hope that those are in the past, and Chris Olave can give us some very, very great moments at the wide receiver position, and he can get back to being himself and feeling comfortable at the wide receiver position. Let's see. B. Curio says, I agree, TJ. Use Olave that way. Yeah, I mean, I think they really have to start utilizing him as a down the field threat. I mean, I think that he will thrive in that. And I think that, you will probably have Chris Olave being a top receiver if you utilize him in that regard, but with being that number one guy, you got to be able to run all the routes because you're getting those targets. But I do feel like the Saints kind of made a lot of guys one-dimensional, and I think that was the detriment of their offense. Last year they were way too Taysom Hill dependent. When Taysom Hill went out, it just seemed like the offense was just lost, because it's just like, okay, you're fast, so you're going to be our down the field guy. Okay, you're our number one guy. We're going to have you running post routes, out routes. Get these guys involved and give them give them plays that make them feel comfortable, where they feel like they can go out there and make plays. You got to listen to the players sometime, and also look at the film. I think the Saints were just in desperation mode last season. They were just trying to throw something against the wall and hope that it sticks. And then when they see that it actually works, they just never wanted to shy away from it, and they didn't build on it. If a guy, was catching the ball in the middle of the field, that was our middle of the field guy, right? You got to be able to open up the playbook and also utilize these guys' skill set and not be so one-dimensional. Hey, TJ, will Moore run the ball more with Rattler or Shough? I don't know if he's going to run the ball with either one of them. Like I think he will give these guys the ability to scramble. He might implement some RPO in the game, but I don't think it's going to be to a degree, of like how we see a Lamar Jackson or some Justin Fields or somebody like that. I think that it's probably going to be these guys mostly focused on being pocket passers. If a lane is open, then you can probably scramble, maybe a few RPO plays, but I don't think that they're going to go too crazy with that when it comes to those guys. Both of them have the ability to be able to scramble outside the pocket. Neither one of these guys are, like I said, Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, but they have a way of escaping the pocket, and also sliding for a first down if necessary. But I don't think it's going to be too much RPO being used by either guy. TJ, how do you like the recent safety signing? A guy who was with the Colts, can't recall his name. Julian Blackmon is his name. I like the signing of Julian Blackmon. He signed a 1-year, $5.5 million contract with the Saints, so it's more of a prove-it deal. Blackmon is a player that is a ball hawk. He has a way of getting his hands on the football, getting it back to the offense. And that's something that the Saints need. I mean, you lose a very, very talented safety in Tyrann Mathieu. Wasn't the Tyrann Mathieu that he was, in Houston or even in Kansas City, but still a very good safety. And at times, he was able to get interceptions and get the ball back to the offense. And Julian Blackmon has that capability of doing that. He had some really solid years with Indianapolis, suffered an injury before, but he has been a very steady player in the AFC South when he was with the Colts. So I expect for him to be a part of the starting rotation. But in the meantime, this is a great opportunity for guys like for Sanker, the rookie out of Virginia. This is a great opportunity for Jordan Howden. He took a part in training camp with the first team. So this is an opportunity for him to be able to step up. I mean, everybody on this team that has been here is trying to impress Brandon Staley and his defensive staff. So when you're thrust into the lineup, you got to take advantage of these opportunities. So I expect for Blackmon to be the starter along with Justin Reed, and they're going to be a solid safety duo. It's good to have some veterans on your team that know football, that has been in big-time situations, and you don't have to worry about them as far as the scheme or levels of difficulty, because you've seen both guys play at a high level. But I like him. I mean, and also he's a young player. He hasn't been in the league very long. He's only 26 years old, so he adds to the youth movement of the New Orleans Saints as of right now. Saints are starting to get young, and they're starting to rely on some of these younger players that they drafted, right? They're not trying to go out here, break the bank. They understand that there may be some learning curves, some growing pains, so to speak. But at the end of the day, they're comfortable enough with that, and they feel like they're going to go and try to see what they actually have in-house. And maybe in 2026, you can probably go into free agency, and spend a little bit of money, and maybe replacing some guys if you don't have it in 2025. But I like Julian Blackmon. Think he's a very talented safety. TJ, I believe Chris Olave, Kellen Moore will get him the ball. I think he will. I think that Kellen Moore is a very smart coach. He has a way of getting guys involved. He utilizes guys' skill set. He does a really good job at understanding what guys can do, and also he listens to his players, not to a point where he just like allowed them to do whatever, but he is open to their thoughts and their views. And if he feels like it kind of works or coincides with what he is trying to do, then he will add it. So I just think that's a combination that shows that that is a really good coaching philosophy, and also it makes the players feel like they matter. So that's a good thing. Hope they don't give Tyrann jersey number out. Well, they will give it out. They will give it out. I'm pretty sure that I don't think his jersey is going to be retired, because there's not too many Saints players jerseys that are retired. I mean, no Saints jersey is retired. It's just the equipment managers don't give it out. Like, to me, as good as Tyrann Mathieu, is, how much he is celebrated and valued in the state of Louisiana, being a New Orleans Saint, I don't think it's to a point where 32 should not be worn anymore. I mean, that's just me. Like, he only played for the Saints, about 3 seasons? But, if you want to look at it from a symbolic standpoint, that's fine. But nah, I don't think that, it should be a point where nobody wear 32 ever again. No, like, nobody should wear number 9 ever again, like, ever again. Right. But, I feel like, 32, I think if it's available and Julian Blackmon was number 32, I think he should be able to get it. What are your thoughts on rookie quarterback Tyler Shough is going to be better on the field with offensive secondary players? TJ, if he throw an incredible deep ball on running backs or receivers, TJ. Oh, well, I think about him, Jeremiah. I think that he's a very steady quarterback. I think he has some really good athleticism. I think that he has some really good footwork. I just think that there were times where he gets a little bit erratic when he feels pressure around him. And, hopefully the New Orleans Saints can have an offensive line around him where he can feel comfortable. Other than that, I think that Tyler Shough is talented. I mean, he has an uphill battle because he's a second-round pick trying to be a starter in the National Football League. And, not too many guys in the second round end up having an incredible career as a starting quarterback. So he has a uphill battle. Now, we look at him like he's highly touted or a top pick because this isn't something that the Saints normally do, draft a quarterback this early. But, being a second round pick historically, his history shows you that, you have a very slim chance of finding success in the National Football League. So hopefully he can. Shough passed the ball. He is unsure if he wants to throw it. That second will give him a problem. I don't know about all that, man. I don't know about him patting the ball and all that. I don't know. I ain't seen too much of that. I don't feel like that's too much of an issue right there. I don't want us to get, like too nitpicky when it comes to these guys, right? We don't know what any of these guys can do right now in the Kellen Moore offense, so, patting the ball and all that kind of stuff, like it's probably something that you notice, but I don't think it's to a point where it should be a level of concern. I don't want us to like get into this where we just nitpick everything these guys do. I just think that we just need to allow this whole entire competition to play out. I think what I see is a guy that has really good touch on the football and seems like he makes some really good decisions. The Panthers are even excited about their season. Well, everybody should be excited about their season. Everybody should be excited about it. I might, for the state of NFL purposes, I might end up like going to the Carolina Panthers training camp, just to, and also a couple more teams training camps I reached out to. So, it just made me think about that. But, they should be excited about, their team, man. I mean, they're a young, promising football team. I mean, Bryce Young, who looked like he was on his way out, seemed like he figured things out towards the end of the season. I mean, they got a big-time receiver now, and Ted McMillan. You got a Xavier Legette. You got Sanders, the tight end. I mean, you got a Chuba Hubbard, good defense. They trying to, build and trying to, build up their defense. So, I mean, they got a lot of things they can be optimistic about. I don't have any issue with that. I think that all fans of all 32 teams are excited right now. Like, everybody is at 0-0. And right now, everybody has a chance of making it to the postseason and winning the division. So, I mean, football is back. So why not be excited? LOL, that boy ain't really do much with us to get 32 jersey retired. Yeah, I mean, let's not like, let's not be prisoner of moment here. I like the Honey Badger a lot, but, I mean, if you want to retire his jersey in Arizona or something like that, like I can understand that, because most of his career he played in Arizona, but at the end of the day, it's like, nah, not for the Saints. I mean, if you have a 32, Tyrann Mathieu jersey, I'm not saying go give it away or something like that. You can hang it up, but it's meaningful. But to say that nobody should wear 32 again, like, nah. When Cam Jordan retires, like nobody should wear 94 again. Certain guys, like they're just a cornerstone players and just all-time greats with the team. Like if you're an all-time great, like I don't feel like as much respect that I have for Demario Davis. I mean, Pat Swilling, number 56, like he one of the greatest linebackers to ever play for the Saints. Like guys like that, right? I feel like their numbers should never be worn. Ricky Jackson, 57, like that should never be worn. Panthers trash. Come on, TJ. Got no defense. I don't know if they trash or not. I don't know what they're gonna be. They might be pretty good this season. And I'm not sitting up here calling anybody trash because if you listen to what most people say, they don't think the Saints are going to be very good. So I don't really listen to that, and I don't really listen to it, man. You got to play the game. I don't know what them dudes gonna be. I don't know what they're gonna end up being. TJ, personal question in regard to podcasting. Now that you have the state of NFL, do you think your Saints bias opinions will change? Biases? I mean, look, the only bias that I have is I want to see the Saints win against any, body that, that they play against, so especially within the division. And I want to see them do well. But I think over the years, it's not to a point where I've just been borderline delusional about the Saints. I mean, I just like the NFL. And, I just, like talking about football. I don't think that my opinions are going to change because I don't think I've ever, like, sit up here and just start waving a pom-pom for the simple fact of just waving the pom-poms. Like, I'll take shots at the Falcons or something like that just for jokes, and giggles and whatnot. But, I mean, I respect all football teams. I do. I respect them all, man, because I understand like how hard it is for these guys to try to, put a product on the field that can be consistent when it comes to winning. So, nah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I just like talking football, man. And if you look at like the podcast, like you'll see, man, like I'm pretty much a straight shooter, man. Like I said, I mean, of course, I love the Saints, and there's always going to be a little extra when it comes to the team because I grew up watching this team, man. It's my childhood team right here. Growing up in the city, it was the New Orleans Saints. But as a podcaster, I want to grow and evolve, and I want to talk sports, and I want to grow as a broadcaster. So sometimes you got to branch out, but nah. Sorry about that. My love for the Saints won't change. So, just ordered my gold alternate jersey today. Oh man, that's cool, man. Yeah, that should be coming pretty soon. Hey TJ, what record do you think the Saints will have? I don't know, man. When I think about it, I feel like they can win maybe 7 or 8 games. I don't think that they're going to be a 4 or 5 win team like everybody just saying that they will be. I think that they're going to show fight. I think they might win a game or two that they had no business winning in the eyes of, prognosticators. But, I think they might be, pretty decent. I don't think they're going to be as bad. I think you're going to see there are going to be areas of improvement that they need to have. But I don't think that they're going to be like a team that's going to, going to look like slaw every single week, and be like, oh man, let me just turn the joint off. Like some games they probably, end up, maybe not looking the part, but I think they're gonna go out there and fight, and that's all you can ask for. Let's see. That's what's up, TJ. Keep expanding your brand, bro. Yeah, man, that's what it's all about. It's about growing and evolving. I started this State of the Saints podcast in 2018 and been doing it, man, since, and I enjoy doing it. But, I love football at the end of the day, man. And there's sometimes where, I want to give my opinions about, other teams. Because, I don't just watch Saints football. Like when we wrap up State of the Saints have a 1 o'clock kickoff, 12 noon Central kickoff. After those games, man, I'm watching other football games. I'm watching all the rest of the NFL. And I enjoy watching it. And sometimes I'll be having something to say about, other teams, so I just decided that I wanted to, start that podcast and been having a really good time doing it. Just growing a podcast, it just reminds me of when I first started this podcast. Now, it's a little bit more sophistication because I have more have more equipment and media stuff that I can use now versus when I first started the State of the Saints. But, I just love talking football, man. TJ, have you seen how hype Alvin is about upcoming season? Haven't seen him like that in a while. Yeah, man, I just think that when it's new and fresh and exciting, I think that guys just, get a little bit more, enthusiastic about it. And man, everybody knew that Dennis Allen wasn't it, right? I hate to keep on pouring water on the drowning man, but that's just the reality. The energy of this team was just, it was horrible, man. It was like watching paint dry. Like, and the team basically took on his personality. Like the team is, the reflection of the coach. And the Saints had no swag, no aura, no nothing with Dennis Allen. It was just like, oh man, I just hope that we win today. And guys weren't having fun. He goes to the podium and started talking about chopping wood and cleaning stuff up every time. And we got to fight the good fight. And people ain't trying to hear that. Sometimes you need a different voice. And I often say that the Saints came into this situation kicking and screaming, but at least we're here. And now that you're here, now you can try to find a way to get yourself out of this hole. Like I said, the first press conference, before training camp, it was so refreshing. Like, as much criticism as I have given Mickey Loomis, over the last couple of years, that's probably the best press conference that he has ever done as the general manager of the Saints, because there was no delusion there. It was a guy that understood that his team is in an uphill battle, right? Like, and he ain't sitting up here trying to lie to kick it, right? It's just what it is. And for him to sit up there and say that, I just think that is refreshing. Now, I just want him to keep the same energy, right? I just want him to keep the same energy. And, and also Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore understands that mistakes are going to happen and guys are going to go through hardships, but, it's about learning from it. So I ain't got no problem with that at all. TJ, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did losing Tyrann Mathieu hurt the defense? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say it's probably about a 6. There's nothing like an eraser, back there in the secondary. Hey, he was not the same Tyrann Mathieu, right? But he was so smart, and he still had a really good football mind. And also he was able to get turnovers. You need somebody that's going to be able to replace that. Like, his presence was meaningful. So, yeah, I would say a 6 because of his football knowledge and his ability to be able to get turnovers for the team. So, yeah, I don't think it's like a 9 or a 10. Like, if this was like prime Honey Badger, yeah, this probably been a 9 or a 10. Not much at all. Tyrann wasn't playing too great last season. He was dealing with injuries. But, when you start getting up there and been in so many wars and battles, this guy's played a lot of regular season football combined with postseason football throughout his career. So, yeah, man, you're not going to be the same player. But his knowledge, like that knowledge, man, that's something that you always have. And sometimes, like when you can't rely on athleticism the way that you once did. You got to start like relying on your savvy. I think about Larry Fitzgerald when he first got into the league coming out of Pitt. He was a beast, right? I mean, this guy can make every throw. Excuse me, he can catch every pass, right? I mean, dude had vice grip hands. He can get down the field. Wasn't always the fastest guy in the world, but he went over 50-50 balls. Then all of a sudden, like he started to slow down a little bit more in his career. They started putting him in the slot, and he found a new life in the slot. Still eating. So sometimes, if you still have that football knowledge, you can stay in the league for a long time. That speed and knowledge will keep you in the league forever. Like guys like Deshaun Jackson and, Ted Ginn Jr., them dudes were like burners. Like, so they always stayed in the league. But, then you have guys that weren't so fast, but they were really, really smart players, and they played north of 30 because of their knowledge. And Tyrann Mathieu was one of those guys. Yeah, Tyrann was piling injuries. We can probably be worried about the other veterans after last season. Yeah, I mean, you only have like a few more guys, right? I mean, Cam Jordan, Mario Davis, two are like the main ones, right? Everybody else is pretty much relatively young. Like who else will we, most of that defense is young. I mean, the Mario Davis, Cam Jordan, I guess you can put Alvin in there now that he's 30, but man, that's a pretty young team the Saints got now. And then you have guys retiring, so that helps the salary cap a little bit more. So bringing in a guy like, Julian Blackmon on a 1-year deal, man, that helps. TJ, are you going to any games this year? Yes, I am. I'm going to a few of them. I'm going to a few Saints games this season. I'm also going to be going to other NFL games throughout the season too for the state of NFL. And, of course I'm going to continue to do my Saints work, just, signed on again for the third season with Bleacher Report. So still going to be covering the Saints, man, because, I love the team. And of course, shouts out to Bleacher Report for giving me another opportunity to cover the team again. What if Spencer outplays Shough in training camp? Then Spencer Rattler needs to be the starter, Justin, plain and simple. Whoever plays better should be the starting quarterback. I don't care if you want Tyler Shough to be the quarterback. I don't care if he was handpicked. If Spencer Rattler is showing you that he's the better quarterback, that is who needs to start. If Tyler Shough is showing you that he's the better quarterback, then he will start. I also feel like if both of these guys are equally, on an equal playing field, I should say, then more than likely Tyler Shough is going to start. That's how I feel. Like if it's like, oh, it's too close to call, like both guys like show like a lot of promise in preseason, I think Tyler Shough probably gonna get the notch over Spencer Rattler. I hope they let you in the media room so you can ask questions to the players and coaches. I don't know. I mean, I'm over that at this point. Like if it happened, it happened. If it don't, it don't. Like that doesn't change the way that I feel, or or who I am, or what I've achieved in my media life. So I'm not concerned about that. At one time, I was kind of disappointed when you work so hard and then you get all these different things and opportunities, and the team that you cover and love, don't give you opportunities. I mean, yeah, it did bother me at once, but when you start to like see other teams and and people asking you to come out to their different events and being a part of other things, just puts makes me realize that I'm doing the right things. But we'll see. What's your thoughts about the defense secondary stepping up on the field this season, TJ? If you're going to get stronger and better than since a few seasons ago, running a crazy train. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think that this secondary is young, but you have two experienced safeties now. I just want to see what it looks like. You definitely need Kool-Aid McKinstry to step up. You need Alontae Taylor to emerge as that leader in the secondary, and I believe Isaac Yadam, Quincy Riley probably going to be between those two, going to be opposite of Kool-Aid. You just need those guys to play at a high level. And if they can do that, then the Saints should be okay. But I don't expect Revis on one side and Dion on the other. If you, I mean, they just need to play and have some level of stability. And I think if they do that, then it'll be fine. I think I pretty much read most of the comments here, but just want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it, man. And if you're new to the channel, hopefully you stay on with us. We're a Saints podcast, been around since 2018, and hopefully you hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow. Also, once again, after this episode, you can check out the State of the NFL podcast. We talked about Terry McLaurin on tonight's episode about him getting a contract extension with the Washington Commanders. He's holding out to try to get a contract extension. He wants to make a little bit more money. I think he makes about $20 million right now. He wants to get at least $30 million per year. It's not going to make him the highest paid wide receiver, but he'll be, in that room, right? I mean, I think the highest paid wide receiver is Jamar Chase. He's making about $40 million this season. Then you got Justin Jefferson with 35, and got a couple guys like DK Metcalf. They're making 30, and Garrett Wilson, who just got his contract extension. So, man just wants to get paid, and I ain't got no problem with that. TJ, I think we shocked the NFL this year. I don't know if they're gonna shock the NFL or not. I don't know what, honestly, King Arthur, I don't even know what that means. Like when we're talking about the Saints shocking the NFL, that can be, that could have so many different meanings, like them winning 7 games, them beating the Buffalo Bills, if we're talking about making a playoffs or something like that, that would be a huge shock. That would shock me, right? But, we're talking about them going on a winning streak, beating teams they have no business beating, or people expect for them not to, beat. And yeah, that would be shocking. Oh, okay. You said LOL 10 games. Yeah. I mean, if they win 10 games, that definitely would be a shock. That would be a shock to a lot of people. Hope to see some of y'all at the games this season. Yeah, I mean, that would be great. That would be great to, meet a lot of the people that make the show what it is. When I went down to the game last season, a lot of Saints fans and people that support this show came up to me and talked about how much they enjoyed the show, and that meant a lot to me, man. It meant a lot. So hopefully I see some of y'all out there. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Coming up next episode, we'll be talking about Saints Day 2 of training camp. Tyler Shough will run with the ones. Day 2, and you have Spencer Rattler with the number 2s, and then Jake Haener with the 3s. We'll get into that. We'll also get into other storylines. But one thing that we came out of the first day of training camp, no injuries. I ain't hear nothing about no injuries, right? Did y'all hear anything about injuries? I didn't. I ain't hear about no injuries. So that's a good thing, right? Everybody came out of there unscathed. So that's the best news, right? No injuries. Nobody going into the tent. Nobody, it sounds like it's a mass unit, such and such, rolled over his ankle, such and such, has to get his knee, his knee hurt, his back hurt, his neck hurt. So at least they got out of there unscathed. I ain't hear nothing about no injuries. So thank you. Shouts out to the new medical staff. Previous episodes available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Also, once again, check out the State of the NFL. I'm going to keep on plugging the new podcast, so get used to it. Where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all the NFL. You can follow the State of the NFL on X at State of the NFL, and you can follow yours truly on X as well at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?